I want to welcome the members of the public, community power staff, and board members joining us in person today. I'll now call the July 27th regular meeting of the Board of Directors. Kimberly, will you please call the roll?
Yes, City of San Diego Representative,
LaCava, present.
County of San Diego Representative, Imperial Beach Representative,
I need right here.
La Mesa Representative,
Garrett here.
National City Representative, Chula Vista Representative,
McCann here.
Encinitas Representative,
Kinsey here.
we have a quorum.
Thank you, Kimberly. So we do have a quorum. Let's start out with the pledge of allegiance. So please stand if you're able. Face the flag and over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, as Kimberly said, a quorum is present. We will now go to special presentations and introductions. And we will start with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. A land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Let us take a moment to honor those ancestral grounds that were the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay. Next, we would like to welcome new members to the community power team. Aisha Cisna, who is our senior policy manager, excuse me. Is Aisha here?
Yep, she's right here.
You want to step up to the mic on your right or left?
Sure.
Brief introduction.
Thrilled to be here today and to meet all of you. I'll speak into the mic, I suppose. Yeah, my name's Aisha, and I currently live in Humboldt County with my husband. He's actually here today. Juan Pablo. He's also a public servant, serves as a clerk recorder and registrar of voters up there. But I actually grew up here in San Diego, in the Hillcrest Mission Hills area. So this is a place that's really near and dear to my heart. I come from the Redwood Coast Energy Authority, where I worked since 2016. Initially, I assisted with the launch of the CCA, facilitating our community advisory committee and doing outreach efforts. I also educated staff on California Public Utilities Commission procedures and legislative procedures. After that, I managed our transportation program. Led our low carbon fuel standard advocacy, expanded our electric vehicle charging station network, EV consultations, GHG analyses, co-led our climate action plan for the region. And then 3 years ago, I started serving as RCEA's policy manager. I was the first person in this position and built it from the ground up. And so during my time there, I managed our regulatory compliance and legislative affairs. So some of my highlights over the past few years in the regulatory sphere were monitoring and leading advocacy across various procurement and programmatic areas, including integrated resources planning, transmission and distribution issues, net energy billing and net energy metering, and a few others. And then in the legislative space, most recently, we've worked with representatives to push forward zero emissions vehicle legislation, as well as interconnection and infrastructure improvements. So I'll keep it at that for now, but I'm just very excited to work with this team. I've been longtime admirers. I know it's still a fairly young organization, but yeah, thrilled to learn from everyone here and to serve San Diego. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I welcome aboard. It's a great organization. I know you'll fit right in. Next, we also have Renata Halls Gordon, temporary administrative assistant. You want to say a few words?
Hi, good evening. Like you said, my name is Renata Halls Gordon, and I will be working temporarily with the admin staff here at FDCP. As a new resident of Point Loma, it's really an honor for me to work with this organization. especially because like authentically they seek to support our community with cleaner, affordable energy. And for me especially, they really strive to promote diversity, not just in the workplace, but within our community. So it's really, really an honor to be here. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. Next up, on behalf of the board and the staff, I want to recognize and thank the following outgoing officers of the Community Advisory Committee. Eddie Price, who was our chair for a number of years, Aida Castaneda, who was the vice chair, and Anna Webb, who is our secretary. In addition, we have some CAC members that we're losing. I'm going to get this wrong. Leah Nepo, yeah, something like that. I totally messed that up. I should have practiced. But I want to thank her for the service on the Community Advisory Committee. And she's been accepted to George Washington University and is leaving San Diego. So obviously we had a very good member of that committee and wish her well in her new adventure. Also want to congratulate and welcome the following Community Advisory Committee officers: Matthew Vasilakis, who is the new chair, David Harris, who is the new vice chair, and Lauren Cazares, who's the new secretary. So thank you all for your service. And we will be hearing an update from the Matthew at item 15 on today's agenda. So with that, are there any items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered on the agenda?
No, they're not.
Great, thank you, Kimberly. Now we're going to go with non-agenda public comment. I want to note that written public comments submitted before the board meeting were emailed to all directors prior to the board meeting and will be posted on the organization's website at the beginning of the meeting. Kimberly, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
Yes, we do. Dr. Peter Anderson, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Peter Anderson. I'm a member of the advisory committee. Big advocate of San Diego Community Power and Power 100. And this month we did an article in the High Sierra, and the Sierra Club newsletter that went out to 30,000 people, telling people to upgrade to Power 100. And I've also sent out emails to dozens of associates trying to get people to go to Power 100. But I could not get on Power 100 myself. And the reason for that is if you're with SDG&E, you cannot switch to even 50% until your true update.
Wow.
And I was surprised by that, and I just wanted to share that with you because that seems to be a glitch in the agreement, which keeps lots of customers for months at a time with SDG&E rather than San Diego Community Power. So that's my comment. My question is that in fact the case? And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Peter. Maybe we'll speak to that later in the agenda. With that, we'll move on. Oh, is there?
Chair, we have one more.
Don't worry, my fault.
Sonia Robinson is online. Sonia, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. To Chair LaCava and to all the other board members, I want to say,
Sonia?
so, yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Sonia, we can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
I'm doing the Zoom,
But it's not projecting.
not projecting.
Hello?
Sonia, we're having some technical difficulties. Hold on just a moment.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
If needed, I can have her call my cell phone and put it on speaker.
We can connect one of the iPads to the,
Can you do that?
yes.
You want to use Mix?
Go ahead and tell her that.
Okay, Sonia, can you start your public comment?
Yes, can you hear me now? Can you guys? hear
Okay,
me?
sorry, Sonia, start now, please.
Okay, can you hear me now by any chance? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Okay, so this. Do I have to unmute right here?
No.
Okay, Sonia, can you try your public comment now, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, let me turn you up. Hold on. Sonia, go ahead.
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yes, we're ready, Sonia, but we have to mute it so we don't have feedback, but you can go ahead.
Okay. So I just want to say to the chair and all the board of directors and members represented for San Diego Community Power, thank you for this opportunity. I am very pleased with San Diego Community Power's effort that's reflected with equity for communities of concern, specifically in the Community Energy Plan. I participated and provided comments and suggestions to our Community Energy Plan as the chair of the local NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. Today, my comments are in support of the Energy Equity Campus at Valencia Park. I would like to quote Dr. Shalonda Baker, who works as a director of the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity at the U.S. Department of Energy. And I quote, "Energy justice rooted in equitable access includes clean energy, economic justice, and restorative justice." So in relationship to her remarks that you can find in her most recent book, we know that accessibility and opportunities are key metrics to obtaining equity in general, and more specifically for energy equity when it comes to relieving the energy burden that many communities of concern experience with high electricity rates and also not having opportunities in this field. So I would like to ask if San Diego Community Power would consider supporting and collaborating with San Diego Energy Equity Campus. And so those were complete my public comments for today. Thank you. Hello? Were my comments on record?
Go ahead and speak. You can talk here now.
I just want to confirm if my comments were on record.
Yes, she's asking for comments are on record.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. So Sonia, yes, we have your comment recorded.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, always technological challenges. Sonia, I appreciate your patience in helping us to work through them. Do we have any other non-agenda public?
There are no additional comments.
Okay, thank you. And just if you had not heard at the beginning, this meeting is being recorded. So we'll move on to consent calendar, which does include the approval of the February 23rd and March 23rd meeting minutes. the regular monthly reports from staff, which we always appreciate. Also, we have approval of a second amendment, to professional services agreement with Senti and Brinker for FY 23-24. Approval of an amended and restated engagement letter with Keith Fox for legal services and power procurement, and approval of the member agency grant program policy. Are there any directors that would like to pull any items from the consent calendar? Not seeing any. Kimberly, do we have any public comment on the consent?
There are no public comments.
All right, so I will entertain any comments or a motion for the consent items.
A motion to approve the consent calendar, so moved.
Okay,
I'll second that motion. This is Hensy.
all right, thank you. So we have a motion to support the consent agenda and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All right, that passes 5-0. Thank you. Now we're on to our regular agenda, item 11, which is update on regulatory and legislative affairs. And I will turn it over to Laura Fernandez and Tim Lindell, Keith and Fox, to present this item. Feel free to start when you're ready.
Hi, I will just very quickly introduce Tim Lindell, who's here today to,
Laura, can you?
Oh.
Can I-
can you hear me? Be on?
Is it green?
There we go. Okay. Now that you can hear me, I will just very quickly introduce Tim Lindell from Keith and Fox. They've been working with us for a few years on the ERA cases and the GRC cases. And they're recently taking on more expanded roles, supporting us in the regulatory space. And as you just saw, they also work with us in the power procurement space. But I'll let them take it away.
Thank you, chair members. Appreciate the opportunity to address you all. I did have some slides. There they are. Thank you so much. My name is Tim Lindell. I'm a partner at the law firm Keith and Fox. We are your new regulatory counsel. We have pretty big shoes to fill from Tosdell and Tosdell APC. I was speaking with Laura and thought a great way to introduce myself and our firm would be to educate you on rate making, what might be one of the most boring subjects in all of public utility law. But I will do my best to make it interesting for you all. It can only get more exciting from here. I'll mostly skip this slide since Laura did a nice job on it. There's just that last bullet is something I did want to highlight. Or can you go back a slide, please? Thank you. We have pretty substantial experience before the CPUC, including representing SDCP and CalCCA. And I personally was in a CPUC hearing room 3 days after I passed the bar, working on counting methodology for combined heat and power resources within resource adequacy. And I've only done similarly dorky things for the last 14 years of my career. So this is stuff we live, eat, and breathe. This is our only practice area. This is what we really like and care about. Next slide, please. The thing that we do mostly for CCAs is work on the bottom line issues. And there is no issue that is more important than the power charge indifference adjustment, or the PCIA. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what are the different ingredients that go into the PCIA and where those ingredients are set. Law requires SDG&E's customers to be left economically indifferent to SDCP's customers leaving. So we have the PCIA. It is basically an exit fee that is intended to ensure indifference. So why do we care? Well, we want SDCP to stay competitive with SDG&E's rates. And a key part of the delta between those rates is the PCIA. And so one of our jobs is to make sure that the PCIA is calculated correctly. Next slide, please. All right, so this is how the PCIA is calculated. If you look at that top equation, you have the circle on the left. That's the total cost of SDG&E's portfolio. So you take all of their utility owned generation, all of their power purchase agreements, you combine and put that into that circle up there. Then you subtract from that the market value of their portfolio. How much is that portfolio worth given resource adequacy capacity they've sold to other load serving entities, or the energy that will come from their plants forecasted for 2024. All that goes into the orange circle. So you have the cost minus the market value, and you come up with what's called the indifference amount. And that indifference amount is what departed customers owe back to SDG&E customers. The difference amount can go negative, and we've actually seen that in the past few years where market value has been very, very high. And that has resulted in negative PCIA rates for certain vintage in certain territories. So I just want to touch real quickly on that orange circle. The orange circle looks at the energy. So the equation on the bottom there, you have the value of the energy. You have the value of the renewable component of certain energy. So energy from a solar resource is worth a little bit more than energy from a natural gas fired power plant. So get an adder, the RPS adder. Then you have the capacity value of those resources. And we have a new one that was just adopted this year. That's the greenhouse gas adder, or the GHG adder. Greenhouse gas, or the GHG free adder, excuse me. Free resources will be large hydro and nuclear. So the types of resources we probably don't have to worry about too much in this service territory because there is no nuclear here and there is no a large hydro, but that matters more for CCAs up north. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so this is one of the places where costs are determined. That goes into that equation, and it's the phase one general rate case. Sounds very exciting. That is an ongoing proceeding right now. And like you can see up there, the phase one general rate case is where the size of the cost of SDG&E's portfolio is determined. So it's where SDG&E lays out how much it costs to run their utility owned plants. So an opportunity to keep PCIA down in this case is twofold. One, you keep that circle smaller than it otherwise would be. And two, you make sure that the costs included in that circle are only charged to the customers that cause those costs or on whose behalf they are incurred. So a good example of this right now, SDG&E has before the commission a proposal to build two 10-megawatt battery energy storage systems at the Miramar peaker plants, 92 megawatt peaker plant. That will cost $36 million in rates over the course of the next couple of years. And it may not be the worst idea. They want that plant to operate more efficiently, so they're attaching battery energy storage to that plant. However, San Diego Community Power's customers are no longer SDG&E customers. So these costs are clearly not being incurred on behalf of SDCP's customers. So our argument in this case is that fine, if you guys want, if the utility wants to install this battery energy storage system, your bundle customers need to pay for it. SDCP's customers are not going to pay for it. That's the phase one general rate case and how it impacts the PCIA. Next slide, please. Now we know how big the pie is, and then the phase two general rate case divides the pie up. So the best visual I could come up with for that. So this looks at which rate classes pay which rates and how those rates are designed. So residential, commercial, industrial, et cetera. Not incredibly important in terms of the PCIA, but there are issues that matter to CCAs in these phase two cases. So one of those issues that we are planning on addressing in this case is bill presentment. What does the PCIA look like on SDC? That issue we'll be addressing here. This is another ongoing case. We just got our scoping ruling. We have testimony due in January, and then we'll have a decision probably in late spring or early summer of next year. All right, now we're getting super nerdy. Here we go. All right. Once we know the costs of the portfolio, we also need to look at what the market value of that portfolio is. And then we set our PCIA rates for the next year. So that blue circle, if you remember, that was the indifference amount. That is in this spreadsheet. It is the red circled item that I poorly circled with my mouse earlier. And that you can see there's an indifference amount for each year. So across the green up there, you get 2009, 2010, 2011 on up through 2022. The spreadsheet is a little old. This is from the 2022 ERA forecast case. So this spreadsheet comes from what's called the ERA forecast applications, the Energy Resource Recovery Account forecast applications. And that is the case, happens every single year, and that's where your PCIA rates are set. So that case just kicked off in May of this year. We are working within that case, and our goal is to make sure that that indifference amount is correctly calculated. And the way that we do that is we employ a team of what might be called forensic accountants, and they go page by page painstakingly through SDG&E's books and make sure that they are forecasting the costs and the revenues from their plans correctly. This is the first part of setting PCI rates within this proceeding. And it happens on a forecast basis. So right now we are looking for rates for next year. If we go to the next slide, this is the second part of PCI rate making. And what it does is it says, okay, well, we forecasted rates for 2023. How did we do? Did we get it right or did we get it wrong? Was the costs correctly forecasted? Were revenues correctly forecasted? Did people buy as much electricity as SDG&E thought they were going to buy? And the bottom line there, it's actually not the one that's circled in red. It's the one just below that. That was my mistake. But you look at the ending balance. And so if you look down from January 2023 on the bottom line there, we started the year $50 million in the hole. That means that we did not, SDG&E did not earn enough from rates. They were $50 million short on what they should have earned in rates from PCI rates. You can see that that balance has actually grown now to $90 million. Now, we're halfway through the year. So in the second half of the year, you can expect that balance to possibly go down depending on how much electricity people plan on using, because in California, people use more electricity in the late summer months than they do in the first 6 months of the year. So we want that balance to go back down close to zero. And if it doesn't go back down close to zero, then the difference, what's left, gets put into next year's rates. So you have a forecast component looking at 2024, and then you have a true up component for 2023. Those two get smushed together, added together. That's the revenue requirement that then goes into PCI rates for 2024. But this is how you know what your PCIA is going to be. It's from these two elements. All right, next slide, please. Now recall, there's another moving piece here that both cost and market value can fluctuate. The major influencer of the market value of SDG&E's portfolio year in and year out is natural gas prices. And the reason is that natural gas sets the market in the California Independent System Operator market. So if you have a solar resource that's generating, the price that that resource gets paid in the market is actually set at the price of natural gas. Everything, that is the price that sets it. So if natural gas prices are high, the market value of their portfolio is really high and PCIA rates go down. If natural gas prices are low, then the market value of SDG&E's generation portfolio is low and PCIA rates go up. Because remember, it's cost minus market value equals indifference amount. So this super wonky slide, you look on the left side, that is average off-peak prices in December, and you can tell that they were between about $200 and $400 per megawatt hour, which is sky high, enormously high. And you may recall seeing news articles about shortages and high prices of natural gas in December, especially in Southern California. And I'm looking at the orange line here with the triangles. That is south of Path 15. That's what we pay down here. And now in last week's, we are somewhere between $40 and $50 per megawatt hour. An interesting benchmark to think about is that the PUC predicted through what's called a benchmark that the price would be $74. So right now we're below where rates were set last year, which means the PCI would go up unless wholesale prices start to rise. This is another thing we all need to keep an eye on in terms of what PCI rates we're going to pay next year. All right, next slide, please. So in order to get a good trend, I had to use the rates from our friends up at Clean Energy Alliance. So these are their system average PCI rates from 2015 to 2023, so over the last 8 years. Now, it is true that Keys and Fox started representing the San Diego CCAs in the spring of 2021. So I would love to claim all the credit for that steep decline in PCI rates. Unfortunately, it really has mostly to do with natural gas and the prices of natural gas going up starting around then. That brings the PCI rates way down. SDCP's PCI rates for last year We're somewhere between 2.63 cents per kilowatt hour and 3.6 cents, a little bit higher on those depending on the vintages. All right, next slide, please. The very last case that influences the PCI rates that you might pay in the coming year is the ERA compliance case. So we were talking about the ERA 4 case. This is now the ERA compliance case. This case looks backwards and just makes sure that all the costs, all the revenues were all recorded in the right bucket. Again, we employ our forensic accountants to go do that work. Next slide, please. And that's it. So that is how rate making impacts the PCIA. And those are 4 really important cases that we get to work on to make sure your PCI rates are as low and accurate as possible.
Great, thank you, Kim, for that presentation. I think you win the award for the most wonky presentation.
I'll take that home.
I think you're probably very proud of that.
I am.
Okay, first, Kimberly, do we have any public comment?
Yes, Lane Sharman is on the line. She also submitted a written public comment that was distributed to the directors prior to the meeting and posted to the website. Jordan, what do I need to do?
Unmute your laptop. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on, I'm not on. Three minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In the interest of everyone's time and due to possibly some feedback, I'm going to keep my remarks very brief and indicate through the letter that I sent that, first of all, congratulations for being for creating a sustainable year during a difficult procurement market. And secondly, I wanted to bring to the attention of all the directors a emerging trend in energy storage. This has to do with thermal batteries as opposed to lithium ion batteries. And I think it's important for the board to understand not only the novelty, but also the profound reduction in resource adequacy and procurement costs that are possible with thermal batteries that can take inexpensive energy throughout the load pocket in San Diego in very manageable sizes, store that energy as heat energy in a heat battery, and then discharge that energy either for heating and cooling, as well as for the production of electricity. So this represents a real breakthrough, and you're starting to see projects throughout the world employing thermal batteries. And I just want to make sure that San Diego Community Power becomes knowledgeable and comfortable about this new technology and considers incorporating thermal energy storage in upcoming requests for proposals. So that's it. Thank you very much. And congratulations on a good last year. And I look forward to working with the board, the advisory committee, and the staff of San Diego Community Power. Thank you.
There are no additional public comments.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly, and thank you for the member of the public that called in. Now turn it over to the board members for comments. This item is simply to receive and file, so no action is necessary. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll make a couple of comments, not to you, sir, because I don't. I will take a deeper dive into the presentation because I think PCIA is one of the things that we do hear about. And it's very difficult for us to explain to that. Actually, let me ask one question. For San Diego Community Power customers, will we ever see an end to PCIA?
That's a great question. That is actually another issue that we're working on in the phase one GRC is we want to be able to establish an end date for when we are no longer responsible, especially for legacy utility-owned generation resources that have been around for a long time. For PPAs, it's a little bit easier when they should roll off the PCIA once the term of the contract ends, or once the contracts are amended such that it constitutes procurement on behalf of another round of procurement that SDG&E is doing for an existing resource. So we are working with experts to come up with an approach that would make sure that utility-owned generation resources also have an end life for within the PCIA as well. And there is no such thing as a forever resource within the PCIA.
Okay, please give us some hope then. Yeah, thank you for that good work and good fight.
I may be retired by the time I'm done, but
this was an update on legislative and regulatory affairs. I do want to take an opportunity to thank Laura for the good work that you do every day on behalf of Community Power in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. As I think all of us here are aware that bills are constantly in flux. And you have really done the yeoman's job in terms of monitoring AB 1373 and really getting it to a much better place. And I hope that it's still on a path to get to an even better place before we're said and done. And certainly communicating our position and amendments. And I also want to take a moment to thank our local congressional delegation, especially Representative Scott Peters and Mike Levin, for leading the letter to Department of Energy and the Environmental Protection Agency to ensure that CCAs are eligible for program funding under the Inflation Reduction Act. And I think that letter is in our backup material. So thank you for that. Laura, I mean, you're sitting back there, but is there going to be a point in time where we get confirmation? Or do we know that we're eligible?
The agency should respond, but we do believe that we're eligible.
It's fantastic news. So yet more work for the staff, for our CEO, but that'll be all good work. All right, with no other comments by my colleagues, we'll move on to item 12. Approval of the First Amendment to Data Management Agreement with Calpine Energy Solutions for up to $300,000 for peak load reduction pilots. So this is a new program that we're introducing. I'll turn it over to Jack Clark to present this item. Jack?
Thank you, Board Chair, and good evening, members of the board. Would you mind going back? Thank you. I'm pleased to present tonight item 12, approval of the First Amendment to the Data Management Agreement with Calpine Energy Solutions for up to $300,000 for peak load reduction pilot services. Our request is to approve this First Amendment. Next slide. First, a little bit of background. Calpine Energy Solutions is an energy service and energy management company that provides comprehensive data management and back office support. And as you know, we're currently in contract with Calpine for their services right now. Recurve Analytics, a close partner of Calpine, is a technology company that provides energy management program technologies to utility clients and community choice aggregators across the country and the state. And as I mentioned, Recurve is currently partnering with Calpine to deliver a very similar program, such as the one I'm about to dive into a little bit more deeply here. A bit more background here. Staff had presented several pilot program concepts at the April 23 board strategic planning session and both May 23 community advisory committee and board meetings. The board of directors approved the FY 23 and 24 budget at the June board meeting, which included a multi-year $2 million budget to implement pilot programs, of which this one is slated to invest roughly $300,000 into the pilot of that overall $2 million budget. Staff presented a brief overview of this pilot, the peak load reduction pilot at the July 23 Community Advisory Committee meeting, as we normally do, to get feedback and to update the committee on our progress regarding the pilot as well. A few of our goals with this particular pilot: we are looking to reduce load during peak hours during summer months. Particularly in August and September, and not only this year, but for the coming years moving forward as well. An additional goal here is to evaluate the pilot design and scalability for future, for larger, more scalable programs moving forward. We plan to identify projects and sites that have potential to deliver peak load reductions this summer. So this is an opportunity that's moving pretty quickly. The way this is currently slated, it is primarily lighting and HVAC systems, projects with a commercial and industrial customer base. Projects are installed, hoping to be installed by the end of August in anticipation of that early September peak load. So many of these projects that we're hoping to tee up in partnership with Calpine and Recurve are shovel ready, can be implemented pretty quickly. This is a pay for performance model type program. So we'll be using the California Public Utility Commission's avoided cost curve, and incentives will vary by the hour. We plan to only pay for actual savings realized relative to a control group of buildings and pay more for the most valuable reductions as needed. As I mentioned, we're hoping to work with both Calpine and Recurve. Recurve in particular has their demand flex market product that's already built. It's already being utilized across the state and across the country, which gives us the opportunity to implement this pilot in a very timely manner. As you can see here, this is a snapshot of quite a few utilities and community choice aggregators across the country that are using something very similar to this. And this platform in particular, the Flex Market platform, was really the basis for the CPUC's market access program to address peak reliability issues in 2023. So this model has been tested and tried in many markets, and we're excited to bring a pilot here to our communities. We are seeking to have a total budget of $450,000, $300,000, as I mentioned, from San Diego Community Power, with $150,000 from Calpine. On project enrollment, estimated impacts will be calculated. Once we're able to move forward upon approval, we'll be able to target these sites and these customers in more of a detailed manner, and we'll be able to calculate the estimated impacts at that point, including kilowatt hours saved, kilowatts, GHG reductions, and the like. The initial evaluation report that we're expecting should be delivered in December of 23, and our final report we're expecting delivered in December of 2024. As I mentioned, this type of pilot is really critical for us to getting a firm understanding on what type of capabilities and initiatives and incentive packages, et cetera, that we can scale up for more of a robust impact across our communities. So we're hoping to get this these systems installed and this program up and running to take advantage of the peak load season this late summer. Next slide, please. And so based on our procurement policy, we are looking to get into a sole source agreement with Calpine to administer this pilot. As I mentioned, Calpine is currently under contract. We have a unique opportunity to leverage this existing work with them. We purpose some of our funds into this pilot. As you can see here, part of their role with us right now, they have access to our secure and confidential customer data, which is needed to target many of these customers and manage and measure and verify savings along the way. We also have the unique ability to repurpose some of the existing scope of work and make that evolution to this pilot here. And transition some of that associated funding in that change to financially support the pilot here as well. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Calpine and Recurve have been partnering on this type of program for quite some time across a number of entities. And so we can leverage that existing relationship and that experience in a timely manner. And also, as I mentioned earlier, many of these projects are shovel ready. It's just a matter of getting approval and then activating the team at Calpine and Recurve to move this forward in a timely manner. Achieved through this amendment would be $300,000 and San Diego Community Power's obligation to fund the pilot, and then again another $150,000 from Calpine repurposed towards funding the pilot as well. If there are any questions, thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Kimberly, do we have any public comment?
There's no public comment.
All right. We do have a staff recommendation. We do need motions. So I'll turn over to the board members for any comments and a motion.
I will be happy to make the motion for item 12. So moved.
Mayor can.
Second.
And council member. So not hearing anything, great, when we do these pilot programs, just one question, will this cover both the peak season this year and in 24 as well?
Currently, this pilot is slated just for this season right now. That's why we want to hit the ground running pretty quickly, and then we'll evaluate it and then see what more we can do next season from the learnings of the pilot.
Okay, I was noting the final report doesn't come out until December of next year, but we'll have enough information as to whether to continue it again.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Good. Okay. Did you want to?
I was gonna say, but the installations are permanent.
Correct.
As far as I understand, so these same savings will occur going forward, hence what.
Okay, very good. All right, we do have a motion by Mayor McCann and a second by member Parent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes 5-0. Thank you, and thank you again, Jack. So with that, we're moving on to item 13, which is approval of the language access policy. And I'll turn it over to Carly Newman to present this item. Please begin when you're ready.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Carly Newman, Senior Account Services Analyst, San Diego Community Power. Tonight, we will be requesting approval for our proposed language access policy. Next slide, please. For some background, this is not on the slide, but for some background, we did bring this item to the Equity and Community Ad Hoc Committee of the CAC, as well as the broader CAC, and it was received and approved with unanimous approval. So I guess just for some context, according to the most recent Census Bureau information, about 40% of our customers or residents in the San Diego region speak a language other than English in their home. And actually more than 10% of residents in the county speak English less than very well, which is a denominator of the Bureau, a qualifying factor of the language capabilities of these residents. So in order to make an informed decision about their electricity provider, it's critical that we provide our customers with information about our services and programs and offerings in a format and in a language they can understand. And you're gonna have to click through this on a couple of did animations on it. So the purpose of the policy would just be to establish procedures for providing information to our customers, making it accessible for them. This really is essential to SDCP's vision and mission of providing equitable and inclusive services for all of our customers, regardless of whether they speak English or a different language. And essentially, this policy would set forth guidelines to establish meaningful and effective communication methods with our customers so that they can truly make a choice of who their electricity provider should be. Happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you, Carly, for the presentation. Thank you for bringing this forward. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
All right. So I think to my fellow board members, we've got this rhythm about how this organization documents as it matures and grows, developing additional policies. So it's all written and people understand what the objectives is. And this is another one, I think, thank you for bringing this forward. Pretty important. So this does require a motion to adopt the policy. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just had two comments, if I may.
Yeah.
One is just a wordsmithing suggestion to page 1 of the policy, and the final sentence says that makes them accessible to persons who are not proficient in the English language. And my suggestion is that we rewrite that to say to persons who are proficient in a language other than English, because it's a little bit more inclusive. And then under verbal interpretation 2B, 5 business days is the minimum amount of time that we're giving somebody to submit a request for translation, it sounds like. But I would hope that even if it was less than 5 business days, we'd be able to attempt to accommodate that. So perhaps we can put something in there that says any request made less than 5 days, we will attempt to accommodate. Because I know we're very good about publishing agenda early, but sometimes other agencies aren't, or it just takes time to get word out that there's an item of interest. So perhaps we can attempt to accommodate requests that are made less than that.
Yeah, I agree. That's very helpful. I agree with you.
Thank you. That's all.
Would you like to make that a motion with that amendment?
Sure. I would like to move approval of our language access policy with the 2 suggestions that I put forth. I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by member Hensy, a second by Mayor Geary. Any other comments? Not seeing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, member Hensy, for catching that. That was a very good catch on that. So. Item 14, approval of a default service change policy. And I'll turn it over to Lucas Utau. Please start when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Lucas Suto. I'm the Director of Data Analytics and Account Services. This evening, I will be presenting the staff's recommended member agency default service change policy. I'll provide the highlights of why we believe the organization needs this policy. I'll also walk you through the basic high-level overview of what the policy entails. And so this policy, please go to the next slide. Essentially, the purpose of the policy is to just provide the framework to the board and staff to evaluate and implement member agencies' change of their default service whenever a member agency elects to do so. The policy definitely will allow for us to have a process in place to support any sort of default service change. And by default service change, we mean member agencies elected a service that their residents were to be enrolled under before we rolled services to those customers. And this policy would allow for us to create a framework and mechanism for when a member agency says, perhaps they want to contemplate a different default service change altogether. So either from Power On to Power 100 and or the vice versa from Power 100 back to Power On. In terms of the policy objectives and the highlights, the essence of the policy capture the mechanics of an advance notice requirement by member agency of at least 12 months. The reason why this is important is in our JPA, there is a contemplation of a member agency perhaps changing their default service, but there really isn't an articulation of the framework of how that policy or how that process needs to play out. And so this policy would allow for us to have that framework to essentially dictate the processes and mechanisms and timelines involved to make that default service change possible. In terms of the customer communication, obviously we will be required as part of the policy to send notifications similar to the notifications that we sent prior to accounts rolling over to our service. There will be 2 communications, one pre-change of the default change, and then one after. And again, in terms of the implementation period, the default change will coincide with our rate development policy that the board approved last year, where the timeframe will be February as the month in which a default change can occur. And then as far as the frequency of how many changes a member agency can make, we've defined that in the policy, which is no more than 2 in the 2-year period. And then last but not least, which I think is really important, because we're all about promoting choice for our customers, is the fact that if any customer had made an option to either opt up to Power 100 and or opt down, regardless of what this service default change entails, that option will be honored as a function of the broader policy objectives. That actually concludes my presentation for today. Happy to take any questions and I'll comment.
Great. Okay, thank you, Lucas. Appreciate that. Kimberly, we have any public comment?
There's no public comment.
All right, so I'll turn it over to the board. We do require an action on this and a staff recommendation to approve the default service change policy. Any questions or comments? Mayor?
Just I'll be happy to make the motion. So moved.
I'll second. Second by member Parent. Well, thank you. Again, this continuing realization of the number of things that we have in our JPA, but we don't have a mechanism, creating policy so everybody understands that. And if you haven't checked on the website, they do a really good job of posting all these documents if you ever need to go through. So we have a motion by Mayor McCann and a second by member Parent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes 5-0. Well, thank you, Lucas. Thank you. Okay, on to item 15. This is an update, our usual quarterly report for the Community Advisory Committee. I believe this is not Eddie Price coming up to the. So take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Xiomara Crespo. I am the Community Engagement Manager here at SCCP. I also support our Community Advisory Committee, and I will be providing this update on behalf of our outgoing chair, Eddie Price, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. So as you mentioned earlier, the new slate of officers was elected during our last CAC meeting earlier this month. And next quarter, you will be receiving this update from our new chair, Matthew Vasilakis from the city of San Diego. David Harris, who is with us here today, thank you, David, will serve as the new vice chair, and Lauren Casares will serve as secretary, and they're both from La Mesa. We thank former officers Aida Castañeda from National City, Anna Webb from Imperial Beach, as well as Eddie, for their incredible work over the last couple of years. So over the last 3 months, the CAC has continued implementing its work plan and working collaboratively with SCC staff as it develops policies and programs. Today's quarterly update provides highlights from April through June 2023. Next slide. Oh, already back. Thank you. Over the last 3 months, we welcomed now Secretary Lauren Casares from La Mesa and bid farewell to Leah Nepomuceno, everybody struggles, from the County of San Diego. I do want to note that as of July 27, 2023, we do have 2 vacancies within our CAC, one representing Imperial Beach and one representing the County of San Diego, and staff is working with the appropriate directors to make sure that those are filled. In terms of operations, CAC meetings moved to be in person as the COVID-19 state of emergency ended. Meeting times shifted from Fridays to Thursday evenings to create better public access and align it with the Finance and Risk Management Committee meetings as well. There have been several other steps taken to streamline meetings and ensure that community voices are elevated. So the committee now also includes legal counsel and a meeting clerk to better facilitate meetings. Agendas have a standing item to better track the CAC's progress on its fiscal years 2022-2023 work plan goals. And in April, as you may remember, the CAC also participated in a special joint workshop with the Board of Directors to discuss strategic planning activities with SCCP staff. The CAC will take a recess in August and therefore not host any regular meetings at that month. Over the last month, CAC members have received updates and had discussions around several topics, including, but certainly not limited to, Community Power Plan that was approved by you a couple months ago. Marketing and communications, legislative and regulatory affairs, pilot programs, and green tariffs. CAC members have also volunteered in a variety of outreach events across our member agencies, and for that, we're forever thankful. And in June, our outgoing chair, Eddie Price, was part of a panel on community engagement at the annual CalCCA conference. When it comes to ad hoc committees, the CAC has also recently stood and created the Programs Ad Hoc Committee, as well as the Community and Equity Ad Hoc Committee. Each ad hoc committee is composed of 5 CAC members who will make ongoing recommendations to staff on different topics that are part of the CAC work plan until the ad hoc committees dissolve early next year. The CAC will return to the Board of Directors at the start of the 4th quarter of the year, which will take place in October, to report on 3rd quarter activities, just as an FYI. I do want to acknowledge the incredible work that our CAC members do every day within their communities, but also the commitment that they make when taking this role and this opportunity. So a big thank you as well, not only to David for being here today, but to Peter as well. We really appreciate their engagement. And thank you for the opportunity for me to provide an update. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation and thank you for the good work in staffing the committee. Kimberly, do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments.
All right. This is simply a receive and file, no motion necessary. Do our board members have any comments? Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate the 2 that showed up and the good work that you do as volunteer members. It's very much appreciated. Certainly the officers, as I said earlier, appreciate their service and the new team of officers going forward. So very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, that ends our regular agenda. And we will move on to reports. So we'll start with our Chief Executive Officer, Karen Burns. Karen?
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Next slide, please. All right, so this is just to give you some insight into our plan. We are continuing to evaluate our space planning needs and are finalizing our approach to how we will get to our more permanent office space. As you'll see in our next slide, we're hiring quite a bit and will be eventually running out of space. So we have hired a space planning consultant to help us to see what our path looks like as we grow over the next few years. We are also hiring a third-party broker to help us identify potential office spaces. We will then receive an initial list, rank and narrow them based on some key criteria, some examples of which you can see here. Then we will review them, shortlist them, visit the sites, put out an RFP, and sometime in the fall, bring to you a presentation, a recommendation, a couple of the options you can see, and then ask for a board vote in Q3 or Q4 of 2020. Next slide. And that dovetails into the fact that we are still hiring. As you know from our budget, we are looking to hire over 20 folks, 25 folks next 12 to 18 months. And these are some of the positions that we still have open, including Director of Risk Management, Procurement Manager, Financial Analyst, and our outreach coordinators, among others. So please do share this information with your networks. We are still accepting applications for these positions. And then we are welcoming next month a new employee, Allison Smith, who is will be our digital media coordinator. All right, so yesterday we had an exciting event to celebrate the awardees of our Community Clean Energy Innovation Grants. This was the opportunity to present grants to 10 local not-for-profits. And it really is the beginning of what we see as our commitment to reinvest back in our communities. It's one of our first steps that we plan to take. And so some of those grants, the grantees included the Climate Action Campaign, who is going to organize workshops for San Diego residents on how to access available incentives. Community Housing Works, to promote energy awareness and reduce costs by installing smart light switches from Flick. The Environmental Health Coalition to support holistic, healthy, and climate resilient homes, that program that they have. Hammond Climate Solutions Foundation to increase energy resiliency in Barrio Logan via a solar and storage installation. La Mesa Park and Recreation Foundation, also a recipient to support an electric tool lending library and green community events. The MAC project to support MAC's electric vehicle access program. That's focused on communities of concern. The San Diego Green Building Council to expand its electric home cooktop or induction cooking program. So folks can borrow efficient induction cooktop kits at no charge. And the United Women of East Africa, promoting sustainable energy behaviors and reducing energy consumption in San Diego's East African communities. We also, with support from San Diego Foundation, who came with us and added some dollars to our grant program, Casa Familiar will support Casa Verde, which is a workforce development program focused on environmental justice, and also Grid Alternatives to support installation of solar panels and storage in communities of concern. So all of these grantees are now listed on our website under the Community Clean Energy Innovation Grants Program. We hope this is a program we continue to do year after year. I want to thank those who were participating. So thank Chair LaCava for opening our press event and board member Colin Parent for attending, as well as our CAC members, Tony Sclafani and Larry Emerson, who were also on hand to help us celebrate. A special thanks to our host, United Women of East Africa, who allowed us to sort of descend on their space and host this event in the Rolando offices. So thank you all again, and thanks to our amazing grantees and the incredible work they do in support of our communities. They are true servant leaders, and I'm really excited to see the impact that these programs will have in the coming year. Next, and I think last slide. We want to thank our entire SDCP team and the community for joining us at the San Diego Pride Parade. This is, as many of you know, the largest single-day civic event in the region. And this year in particular was the largest Pride Parade in San Diego's Pride history. We were honored to walk as the 55th contingent that morning. There were a total of 200. And many of our members, our staff, our family, and our friends joined us. So thank you for those who came out, celebrated with us. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Karen. I also want to give a shout out to Jen Ron, who pulled off that celebration. Her ridiculous attention to detail made sure it really came off very, very well. So if you could have got the temperature down a little bit, that would have been even better. But it was a very great celebration. Certainly proud to be a part of it. Our general counsel, do you have anything to report, Nick?
I have no report this evening. Thank you.
Okay, great. The last thing we have is director comments. So I'm going to offer a couple. One, if you haven't heard, we are going to have an August meeting. So Kimberly will be reaching out to make sure that we have a quorum. There were just some time sensitive issues that kind of forced us to have that August meeting. Even though I'm very proud about how fast we get through our agenda, that is intended to be a fairly short one, if that makes a difference. The other thing I wanted to give you a heads up, we're now in year 4 as an organization. And one of the things that you'll see coming through the board over the next several months, over the next year, is that we have had a lot of outside contracts, have had a lot of amendments, extensions of those contracts. Best practices really tells us that we need to go back and do RFPs again to make sure that we're really getting the kind of outside firms that are really serving our organization very well. So you'll start to see that. As an introduction to that, we'll be bringing an info item in August to look at general counsel and whether the board would prefer to stay with an outside general counsel, as we do now with BBK, or to go with an in-house counsel. Both of them have some pluses and minuses going forward. So I wanted to give the board an opportunity to talk a little bit about that. We won't make a decision until September in terms of which direction we want to go. But as I said, this is part of a larger effort about double checking in terms of who is serving the organization, make sure that we have the right contractors serving us. So with that, are there any other director comments? Anyone? Okay. That brings us to the end of our regular agenda, and I appreciate everyone's participation. We are adjourned until the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Power on August 24th, 2023. So thank you all.